Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is the month in review for November. As usual, going to be diving into a bunch of things, from the various board game stats to my favorite videos, my favorite games, the best new games, the best overall experiences, some of my disappointments, and a whole lot more. Timestamps to everything in the description down below, and then let's go ahead and start this off. Not and then, there's no and then. It's timestamps to everything in the description down below, and let's go ahead and start things off with the stats for the month. Stats for the month of October. That's what we're doing, right? This month of review. I guess I said the month in review for November, but it's really the month in review in November for October. That's how these things tend to work. But let's start off with the general stats, starting off with I played 178 games, 178 plays in the month of October. That doesn't put me at the highest or the lowest for the year. My general goal each month is to just not be the lowest, which I guess begs the question of next year, like what defines the lowest? Because inherently whatever I do in January, I can't be lower than that, so I should always be going higher in theory. In practice, at least this year, there was a month that was the lowest month, and since then I've been like, let's not have lower than that month, and 178 games is higher than that, so we are safe there. I played 61 different games, 61 unique different titles, of which 28 are new to me. That continues the trend of playing roughly a game a day. I think on average across the course of the year, I'm still above a game a day, which isn't intentional. Last year I had a game a day challenge where I intentionally tried to hit that number. This year I just incidentally have been hitting that number, but with 61 different games, 21 new to me, that means it's 31 of those games. 31, that sounds right. 31 of 32. No, 31. 31 of those games. No, 32. 33. I knew the number was wrong. 33 of those games are going to be games that I'll already play, that I've played before and all that. And then my H-index for the month of October is 6. H-index is the number of times you've played a number of games X times. Or so in other words, an H-index of 2 means you've played at least 2 games twice each. An H-index of 6 means I've played at least 6 games 6 times each. In fact, some of these plays, let's go ahead and talk about some of the plays that I've played a lot more of because, for example, my most played game in the month of October is Codenames Duet with 19 plays of Codenames Duet. It's seen a bit of a resurgence this past month. Codenames in general always gets a bunch of plays, but 19 plays means it's definitely currently like on front of my mind, top of mind, and getting a lot more plays in. Now, correlating to H-index as usual, that doesn't mean, I played a game 19 times, but if I've played 6 games 19 times, and the 7th game I've played only 5 times, that's still going to be only an H-index of 6, because I only played 6 games at least 6 times. So that's my H-index over there. I have 17 games of My City Roll and Build. It's an easy one to charge through. They're like 20-minute games. I've done a full cycle of them, and halfway through another cycle. We have 17 plays of Turing Machine, which is an interesting one, because Turing Machine is actually gone. It left my collection. But I found that I've started playing the solo mode on BGA with no real understanding as to why. I'm still bothered by the game. I still have no intention of picking it back up. I find the Turing Machine feels like a solo experience, but when you're playing it solo, it's like, what's the win or lose condition? Because you have like 6 rounds to figure it out, but that's not like an accomplishment. So I frequently just feel frustrated by the existence of Turing Machine while still playing it these days, so we'll see what happens there. We have 12 plays of Ticket to Ride Legacy. I want to get in a 13th play because I plan on doing a full review soon. In fact, by the time you watch this video, you may have seen the full review, I don't know. But I want to get at least one more play in because I want to play it in the full after the Legacy. Ticket to Ride Legacy has 12 games to it. I've played through all 12. I've actually played one more game of Ticket to Ride Legacy, but it was in August. So in the month of October, there's 12 games of Ticket to Ride Legacy. Hope to get one more, although that one would be in November, so I guess that won't count. But either way, we have 12 games of Wild Duo. Wild Duo is a tricky one to kind of count because Wild Duo is a set of 5 different abstract games. So I don't even know how to count this, but effectively across those 5 abstract games, I have a total of 12 plays. I played each one at least twice, and some I got a 3rd play in of, and so Wild Duo is a tricky one to count because it's 12 plays of Wild Duo that's technically 5 different games. So don't know how you want to count that, but it's here. We have 7 plays of Mythic Mischief. Mythic Mischief is continuously seeing some play. I think 2 of those are in person, and 5 of those are on the app, if I recall correctly. Don't take my word for it. I'm just going by the rough numbers. Then we have 6 plays of Wizards of the Grimoire, which I managed to get a bunch of plays of Wizards of the Grimoire, a mix of in-person and on BGA. And that is basically what we have for the highlights of the month as far as our statistics, as far as the games played, all that. Player counts, locations, all of that. No notable changes there. Getting some plays, getting a whole bunch of plays in solo, a bunch of plays on BGA. Most of my plays are still 2-player. That tends to be my most common player count. But either way, a bunch of good general numbers across the board. As far as my favorite videos from other channels this past month, something I started in last week's month in review is I started adding the category of other channels videos I've seen across the board game space, and so far I've been keeping them to board games specifically. I don't know if I always will. I might choose to go outside the realm of board games for my favorite videos, but I'm not yet sure. Even if I do, it'll be like not all of them. We'll see. For right now, they're all board games. So, in no particular order, which is interesting because most of the other things I'm going to do on this channel are in a particular order, but in no particular order for these, we have review of reviews for Dragon Eclipse in particular. This is a channel that's somewhat new. One of the things that he's doing is he's doing a category of reviews of reviews. So he'll go through a bunch of opinions around a game and give you the aggregate. Hey, I just watched 15 reviews of Dragon Eclipse, and here's what they said, he said, she said. Here's what they reviewed. This one didn't give a review. Kind of just consolidating the information. So you get like a 20-minute video or 30-minute video that condenses the highlights from a bunch of other channels. It's a fascinating concept. I could see it picking up well over time. It just depends. I guess it's an interesting question of, I frequently deal with this when I'm writing Instagram posts. I'll write an Instagram post for a game I reviewed, and very often I'm like, I just condensed my, 12-minute review into like 4 paragraphs and gave the highlights in that. Now, speaking for myself, I'd rather watch a 12-minute review than read an Instagram post. I get more out of that nuance, but I always have this mindset of like, I'm kind of just giving you the highlights of the review in 4 paragraphs that takes you like a minute and a half to read, if that long. So why are people watching for 12 minutes? And this review of reviews is an interesting idea that kind of lends itself to that. Like, give me the highlights, don't give me the whole entire spiel. I say to the people who are watching an entirely, 20 to 30 minute long recap of the entire month, who are already watched some of these videos. So I don't know who the target audience for anything is at this point. We have 7 tips for hosting a mostly peaceful board game night. This is basically one of those humorous sketches around board game nights. It is from the Babylon Bee, which I know will be polarizing to some people. I tend to appreciate these comedy sketch board game bits regardless of the channels that they are from. I've watched a lot of them over the years and they tend to be very fantastic. This by no means is my favorite one. Particular ones I've really enjoyed is Rhett and Link have an incredible one that I always go back to. It's tremendously entertaining, and there's one from a channel that I don't even know the name of. Maybe I'll try to find it for next month, even though it won't be a video for this month. It'll be maybe I'll try to find a few of my classics for next month and throw them into the mix. But there are some solid sketch comedy bits around board game nights, and this was one of them. We have our biggest board game video ever yet. Bantam West has arrived. This is Tim Chun. Tim Chun does fantastic work. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, you absolutely should. He does some of the best work in board games in general. In terms of, I should be specific. Everyone has something that they're good at. And I think Tim Chun does some of the best cinematography in board games. His videos are good to make across the board, make no mistake about that. But the thing that he's best at, in my opinion, is his cinematography is top-notch, arguably the best in board games. And he has a video, which is a tutorial for Bantam West. He does a full 20-minute cinematic. He does a 20-minute cinematic Bantam West tutorial that is very entertaining and very interesting to watch, and will give you kind of a investment into the learning of the experience. It kind of turns learning a board game into that, video game tutorial kind of experience where you're learning things as you go. It's an interesting vibe. Whether or not you're interested in Bantam West, it's worth checking it out. It's the kind of thing that'd be fantastic to see more of. Obviously, you need to have budgets behind it, which is always the complicated part. We have Unmatched Adventures Tales to Amaze review, now with cooperation. This is a Dice Tower review, going over Unmatched Tales to Amaze, which I think the reason I'm focusing on this one is just because it is the highest aggregate scores I've seen from the Dice Tower ever. It's 10, 10, 10, 9.5. Those are the scores. The only thing that could beat that at this point is a 10, 10, 10, 10. That's the only thing that could beat it if you have 4 opinions in a video, which just makes Unmatched Adventures Tales to Amaze something that you should have on your radar. There's an entertaining review, there's a well-done review, which Dice Tower reviews generally are. I'm focusing on this one more because of the exceedingly high aggregate scores. And then lastly, we have State of the Channel 2023 from Jamie Stegmaier. Jamie Stegmaier, if you don't know, has a fantastic YouTube channel. He's been around for a long time. His focus is to just be a voice in the space in a variety of different ways, to talk about his products, to promote Stone Matter games, to talk about board game design in general. He does a great job of just getting into the hobby in a overall very informative way. He really put himself out there in multiple spaces in multiple ways and has been incredibly successful. And State of the Channel 2023, I like that one because I like that kind of thing. I like that kind of introspective, how am I doing, where can I do better, let me talk to my audience, let me find out their thoughts and opinions, and he's going over that in a full 30-minute long video. If you watch Jamie's stuff, I think it's an interesting introspective video to watch. And with that, we're going to move to the best new games of the month. This category of games are the category of games that are new to me. They are new to me games, covering the best 5 new to me games, although this week we have 6, of course. This month we have 6. But for the number 5 spot, I'm going to give 2 games that are tied because I'm conflicted on both of them. Both of them I felt were deserving of a spot in my top 5 games, and both of them I also feel are not deserving of a spot, and I'll explain why. Those two are going to be Dice Throne Missions and Horizon Zero Dawn Forbidden West. Both of those are very much tied for my number 5 spot this month because both of them I really enjoyed and I'm excited to dive back into, and both of them I feel like I need to play a lot more. They were not reviews I did on the channel. They are Horizon Zero Dawn I'm going to be doing a first impressions of, and Dice Throne Missions was paid content. I didn't do any, opinionated content around it. But both of them are really solid games from what I've experienced, and for both I need to see more of them before I'm locked in because I'm already hesitant to them. Dice Throne in general is a game that I enjoy but don't love. I enjoy it. I have all of it for some reason because it's just so well done, but like I don't love it. And Dice Throne Missions gave me my favorite version of Dice Throne so far, but I've only played it twice. I've only gotten 2 plays of Dice Throne Missions in, and I'm still a little hesitant because of how I feel with Dice Throne that I'm like, it's one of the best games I've played this month. And also, I'm not confident where it'll be after I play it 10 times or 5 times even. I just don't know what it'll be. Horizon Forbidden West is a very similar problem. I've enjoyed Horizon Zero Dawn, the previous game, but not enough. I gave it a 3 out of 5. That's hardly a recommendation of any kind. It's like, hey, it's okay. There are things I liked about it, but ultimately I can not play it again and be fine with that. I've definitely enjoyed it, but enjoyed it is not a recipe for wanting to play it again. And Horizon Forbidden West, I've played twice, and was it twice or 3 times? Twice. I got 2.5 plays. I got 2.5 plays of Horizon Forbidden West, and I've enjoyed it, but it is a first impressions. I only got to see a slice and a sliver of the content that they have, and so I'm both excited, and also 2 plays does not an opinion make, so I'm excited, but I'm hesitant, so we're going to put it in both these games are going to be tied for my number 5 slot. My number 4 slot is going to be Forest Shuffle. I think Forest Shuffle is fantastic. I think it is a game that is a little swingy and a little crazy on the points, but it's just so satisfying to just play the cards and build out your point combos. I really enjoy Forest Shuffle. It's my number 4 best game of the month. My number 3 is going to be Wizards of the Grimoire. Wizards of the Grimoire is fantastic. Now, disclaimer, we have done paid content around this game in the past, but I reached out to them specifically for the Shifting Sands Kickstarter and said I would love to cover your game. I just want to talk about it. I think it's an excellent game, and I just want to talk about it more, basically. This is a great game. If you like head-to-head games, if you like games like Radlands, like Magic the Gathering, I think Wizards of the Grimoire is one you should absolutely be paying attention to. It's a fantastic experience that I really enjoy. My number 2 is slightly breaking my whole conversation around the Dice Throne Missions and Horizon Forbidden West. And my number 2 is going to be Spiritfire. Spiritfire is my second favorite game of the month, and the reason for that is because Spiritfire, I spent a whole day playing Spiritfire, a whole day going through it, and really enjoying what I got to see from the game, but it is a game that has a lot more going on to it, so it does have that first impressions caveat to a degree. I think Dice Throne Missions and Horizon Forbidden West I'm more hesitant on because they have previous iterations that I'm not as in love with. Versus Spiritfire I'm more excited for because the previous games from Orange Nebula are games that I love, and so I'm more confident about where that game is for me. Ultimately, Spiritfire is a game that it gives you a lot of things that are familiar and yet a lot of things that are different. It's going to be a game that if you like Orange Nebula's games, their other games, I think you'll like Spiritfire very much. If you like games like Marvel Champions, I think you'll like Spiritfire very much. There's a lot to enjoy here, and I definitely enjoy it. I do have the caveat, the only reason this is my number 2 pick and not my number 1 pick is because until I give this game 20 hours of my life, I don't know. It's a game that's meant to be a game you play for 50 hours, for 100 hours. For any of those, it's a giant campaign, living board game experience. And I find sometimes I play those games for 50 hours or even 15 hours, and then I'm like, you know what, that was a great one-shot experience. It wasn't a great experience that I pushed myself to continuously go through, and so I have the hesitancy, I have the slight unknown. That's the only reason it's not my number 1 pick. My number 1 pick is going to be Ticket to Ride Legacy. Ticket to Ride Legends of the West is going to be my number 1 pick for the month of October. It's fantastic. I don't know whether you're watching the review for Ticket to Ride before this video. Depends on when things go up. But Ticket to Ride Legends of the West is absolutely fantastic. I think it's an incredible experience. And if you like Legacy games at all, if you like Ticket to Ride at all, and if you like Legacy games but not Ticket to Ride, and if you like Ticket to Ride but not Legacy games, I think either of those categories make Ticket to Ride Legends of the West a game worth trying. With the caveat, it's not cheap. It's a $95 game at your online retailer. Even if you go 4 ways on the game, that could be like $25 a person, and it's a game that you could play. I mean, it's probably in the range of 12 hours of gameplay-ish. I think the earlier games are close to the 45-minute length. The later games are close to the hour-and-a-half length. I think all around it averages to around an hour a game, but it's an excellent experience and one that I definitely wholeheartedly recommend. Then from there we have my disappointments of the month. My disappointments are the category that I don't have a specific number. I don't try to force 5 disappointments here. I just do whatever there are. Usually, historically, I think there have been 3. That's not intentional. It's just I usually go through and try to find some things. There are 3 with the caveat that I don't include in disappointments prototypes that I've played that weren't for me. And I wrestle with that because part of me wants to tell you, hey, I played this prototype and it was a disappointment to the point that I didn't cover it. And sometimes I'll talk about them. If it comes up, I'll talk about them. People ask me about it, I'll talk about them. But I'm always hesitant to be too mean to a prototype because of the fact that it is a work in progress. I will say there have been some prototypes I've played in this past month that I passed on, that I said no to covering because they weren't for me, weren't for the channel. Sometimes I do it with paid content, sometimes I do it with unpaid content, but there are things that are just not for me that I don't want to showcase. I'm willing to be, when the final games, the gloves are off, there's no holds barred. If you are a finished product that's being sold, I am happy to review it as is. When you are not a finished product, there's always that drop of hesitancy of, you're a work in progress. How critical do I want to be to you? So it's always a tough one. But that aside, the 3 games I am going to talk about, we're going to have Minecraft Heroes of the Village. This is not a bad game. It's just a game that I wanted more from, I guess. In general, disappointments aren't necessarily bad games. They're games I wanted more from those games. And Minecraft Heroes of the Village, my son loves it. My kids, multiple sons. All my sons have played the game and love the game. They're all into Minecraft right now. It's fantastic. But the game itself is a little too basic. I wish there was more going on from that. I want a slightly better Minecraft experience. As it was, it's okay. I want a better Minecraft experience. We have Ex Libris Revised Edition. I really wanted to like this game. It's not a bad game. It's not. It's just not that great either. Ex Libris to me is, it's okay. There are good concepts going on in the game. I love the sense of organizing your library, of stacking your books and all that. That's great. But the actual worker placement aspect just feels way too crazy and chaotic and not rewarding enough. So Ex Libris, I played the original game and I was excited for the revised edition, and the expansions do some nice things, but ultimately the game still has the same problem it always did, which is there are too many locations, too much text, and the experience is a little bit too convoluted for what it is. I think they need to really dial down to the core what it is and stop trying to do so much with it. That said, this is already the revised edition. I don't anticipate seeing another version anytime soon. And then lastly, we have The Perfect Wave from the OP. The Perfect Wave was one that I read the rules, I was excited for, I heard good things about it, but it doesn't work for me. To me, I was very disappointed in this one because I felt that the game really gives you I felt like it gives you that point scoring optimization kind of thing where you have 7 different ways to score points, and it's your job to find that puzzle of the best way to do so. But it did so in a way that I just found frustrating, not particularly rewarding, not particularly engaging. I found that the core gameplay aspect works for me, but it's too tight. You can't do anywhere near enough. It feels like a gateway game that's trying to be a Lacerda in its tightness, if that makes sense. It's not a good combination. It's a little too pressure for what the game is trying to be, in my opinion, and I was definitely disappointed in that one. I wanted more from the experience. For my favorite videos of the month on my channel, my favorite videos of the month, these are my personal favorite videos on my channel, not other channels. These are the ones that I am the most proud of. Going from least to most over here, we have 7 games to try if you like Catan. This is a new series I started doing. I've had a few of them in the works already. I don't know how long it'll last, but basically picking popular games that are a little bit more gateway friendly and then trying to give you 7 games more. And it's not necessarily always going to be 7. I just went with 7 for right now, but it might change. But for whatever it is, it's going to be giving you a bunch of games that in some way have a vein to something about that popular game. So for instance, the next one, which I think you've probably seen already on the channel, is 7 games for Ticket to Ride. So 7 games to play if you like Ticket to Ride. I'm going to have one for Wingspan. I'm going to have one for... Honestly, I don't know how far it'll go. Only ones I planned out were Ticket to Ride, Wingspan, and Catan, but I hope to have more of them. But the idea is that you find a title that is in some way a gateway game that has a large audience, and then you try to give people next step games that have a reason why, if you like this, you might like this, or this, or this, or this, that all have something similar to that first game. It's a way of branching out and giving people more suggestions. It's one of those things that it is meant to be content that is a bit more focused on someone looking for something like that as opposed to a subscriber of the channel. It may well be interesting to a subscriber of the channel, but the target audience for it is more focused on the general gateway audience. I have this thing with my thumb, by the way, completely random note here, but like, I did something with my nail and like it's really hurting, and I'm hoping it grows out, but right now I'm suddenly like these like shooting pains up my thumb because of the way the nail's growing in. I hope it's temporary, but also when I was like 13, I had some really bad issues with some hangnails, like on my toes, like ingrown toenails that were like really problematic, and I'm so mentally scarred from those. Sorry for the random life tangent, just I was touching my hand and it just like shot a pain up my hand, so that's not a great sign, I imagine. Anyways, then next up we have, that was video number 5. Video number 4 is going to be 5 quick tips to stop backing games. This is one that I do on a regular basis. It's a conversation I frequently have on the channel. Frequently is a relative term. I'd say at least once a year I try to do a video on ways to stop backing games, to try to give you more tips or incentives to try to keep your self-control in check. Sometimes it applies to retail as well, but whatever it is, it's just a frequent reminder that as much as we live in a consumerist society. As much as I am promoting that inherently, I talk about the new games all the time. I'm showing you the new stuff all the time, although we'll talk more about that in shortly. But yeah, it's just a good reminder. There's always plenty of ways or reasons to not back things, and it's good to have those front of mind. Then we have Spiritfire, an attempt to explain further. This is a video where I did a talking about Spiritfire, which was, I did it for Spiritfire First Impressions, and a lot of people were like, I don't understand how to play this game. And I was like, okay, let me try that again. And so I went into a full video of Spiritfire and attempt to explain further. Now, I like this video a lot. The dislike ratio on both the first impressions and the attempt to explain further are both similar. In general, dislike ratios for me on the channel, the way it usually works is around a 3 to 5% dislike ratio is just standard. Like if I have a video that has a 99% like ratio or 100% like ratio, that means like I managed to find an audience of people who are just happy. It's usually the exception. I'd say 3 to 5% to me is normal. That's just the ratio of you have some people, they pop on, they don't want to see it, I talk too fast, I don't show B-roll, whatever it is, 3 to 5% is completely normal for me on the channel. It just means that I'm just, you know, I'm doing my job. I have a large enough audience that not everyone is here because they love me. Sometimes people are being shown things in the algorithm. Sometimes the people who watch my channel, they want to express that they are upset with something about something that I did 4 years ago they still haven't gotten over. But 3 to 5% is normal. 5 to 10% is usually where I'm in the range of, okay, in some way I stepped on someone's toes, something crossed the line somewhere. It might have been an opinion I have, it might have been something about the video itself, it might just be the video or audio quality. Sometimes those things are enough for people to just go dislike, instead of like putting in the comments like, hey, the audio is not great, they'll be like dislike instead. So like videos I've done that have had more blurriness or more audio quality usually will show up in that, you know, 8 to 10% dislike ratio, and I'm like, I don't know why disliking was the best way for you to communicate this to me, but either way, that will happen. And sometimes it's because I like to put out a video defending Come On or something like that, and that will also do it. Anything above 10% is usually where I know that people are upset. And that's rare. It's happened, but it is rare for a video to go above 10%. I'd say that the Spiritfire First Impressions and the Spiritfire Attempt to Explain Further both were at around a 92% like ratio, so around an 8% dislike ratio, which means people were unhappy that they didn't get an understanding of the game. And I get it. Also, I tried, so sue me. It's not paid content, and doing my best I can. It is what it is. The reason that video is here is because I like that video. I like the fact that in that video I talked about game design in general, about the reason we play games, the different things that lend itself as to why an experience is something that calls to us versus when it doesn't work for us. I like the fact that Spiritfire, which is a hard game to explain, once you get past the 30 minutes of rambling in the video, there's like a 3-minute section where I explain Spiritfire, and I think I did a good job explaining it with the best tools at my disposal, which is referencing parts and components from other games. It wasn't necessarily a video that landed with everyone. Inherently, it didn't do the full job. Some people watched that video and walked away understanding more. I know there are people who commented, thanks for this, I backed the game because of this. I know there were people who backed the game because of that video. So I did help some people, and I'm happy that I did. But ultimately, I liked the video. I was proud of the video, and it wasn't planned. It was a response to the first video, and it was filmed the night before I was going out of town just because I wanted to get up for the crowdfunding campaign. But I was proud of the video, and so that's why it's here. The number 2 video is going to be top 10 guilty pleasure games. This is a list that I do. I do a lot of lists, but this particular list was a list of top 10 guilty pleasure games I like more than I think I should, which is an interesting conversation, but for me, it's not games that are underrated. There are plenty of games that are underrated, but I think they're fantastic, and I will fight you on that. It's more that these are games that I wouldn't fight you on. I'm not going to fight you that Valeria Card Kingdoms is the best game ever, but I have fun with it, and I do not think I'm ever calling that game. It's just so much fun. But if you're like, but I don't like it because of this, this, and that, like, yeah, I hear you. I get it. But I still love it, and I still think I like it more than I do. I like it more than the game is good, if that makes sense. So I enjoy doing this video of top 10 guilty pleasure games. I'm always curious what yours are in that category. And then lastly, going back to the hype and the buzz and the content and always showing you new things, my favorite video of the month was a 3.5 isn't a recommendation. This is a video talking about the fact that a 3.5 rating, 3.5 out of 5, my most common score on the channel, it is not a recommendation. It is a passing grade. It is saying that, hey, here's your C+. You passed. You did good. You're fine. It's not bad. It's not good either. There are aspects around the 3.5 that usually call to me. So once you move down to a 3, I usually I enjoyed it, but I don't care if I never play you again. A 3.5 is I will not play you again, but like, it was good. It was still good. I still enjoyed it, but it's not a recommendation because there are so many good games. You should be focusing on the great games. You should be focusing on the games that tear up your heart inside when you decide whether you do or don't want to keep it or get rid of it or play it again, any of that. Those are the games you should hold on to the most, and a 3.5 for me is not a recommendation. A 4 plus is a recommendation, and even then, if you're really trying to be picky, 4.5s and 5s are where it's at. A 4.5 is a strong recommendation. 4.5 is a 5. There's reasons why that small nuance exists, but both those are amazing scores for me, my opinion, obviously. Versus a 4 is very, very good, but there's still sometimes a reason I won't keep a 4. Versus I don't think there's ever a reason that I won't keep a 4.5. Over time, scores might degrade. Over time, I might play a game more, or a legacy game that I finish. There are reasons why over time might change. But initially, I always keep at least a 4.5 and above, so that's my really good recommendation, and 4s are good recommendations. That's going to be my favorite videos of the month. Which brings me to my crowdfunding highlights. Going through the top 5 crowdfunding campaigns for me this past month, and it's worth noting that all of these games are games that I'm sort of not backing with caveats. Meaning, in general, I've been backing fewer and fewer games. There are games that excite me, but I recognize that I have to work with a limited budget. It is what it is, and I'm fortunate enough, I'm grateful and fortunate enough that I do get sent a lot of games. And so it's easier for me to sit there and say, I won't get this game, or even I just won't get this game in crowdfunding. So despite the fact that these are my 5 picks for my crowdfunding games of the month, I still back none of them. I used to back like 5-10 games a month, and now I back maybe 1 a month. And in general, again, sometimes there's a caveat that sometimes I reliably know that I can expect to get it from a publisher, so that does change the conversation. And sometimes there are times where I would back a game if I wasn't, but yeah, it's hard to say for sure in these cases. But starting with my number 5, my number 5 is going to be Dice Throne Missions again. So Dice Throne Missions is getting highlighted twice here, but it is what it is. But Dice Throne Missions is one that I very much enjoyed, and it's one that I do believe I'm getting a copy from the publisher. If I was backing it myself, I would buy Dice Throne Missions. I would not buy X-Men, for the record. I'm trying to be more cost conscious, and as much as I do enjoy X-Men, I have 26 other characters in the Dice Throne universe. I don't need more of them. I want more of them, sure, but I can't justify paying for them, or their acrylic tiles, or the sleeves. But Dice Throne Missions, I would pick up if I couldn't otherwise, because that really enhances the Dice Throne gameplay to me. It's my favorite version of playing Dice Throne so far. My number 4 is going to be Cretaceous Rails. Cretaceous Rails is really excellent. It's really solid. It is a good Euro game. The biggest pet peeve with it is that it's got pick up and deliver, and so I'm a little bit less excited about it because of that, because pick up and deliver is not a mechanic I enjoy, but the tableau building in Cretaceous Rails is really, really well done. That's my number 4 pick as far as the crowdfunding campaigns this month. My number 3 is going to be Deep Rock Galactic, which I still haven't played, but I want to. I mentioned earlier in this video that my kids have been really enjoying Minecraft. I want Deep Rock Galactic just so my kids can enjoy and experience something that is Minecraft adjacent and build little minecarts and gather your resources and fight off the enemies. And yes, I know it's a video game too, but not necessarily one that they're playing. But Deep Rock Galactic is one that I'm very excited for, and I do want to pick up a copy in one way, shape, or form. I'm not backing the campaign. I don't need to go all in, but it's something that I will be keeping an eye on the secondhand market in some way, place, whatever, to try to maybe trade for a copy. It is one that I definitely want to try and experience, specifically because I want to try it out with my kids and do it. Past that, if it wasn't for that, I have plenty of dungeon crawlers. I don't necessarily need it, even though it is getting good ratings and good reviews across the board. So Deep Rock Galactic is my number 3. My number 2 is Ezra and Nehemiah from Garfield Games, from Shem Phillips. I've recently loved Wayfarers and South Tigris, and that has definitely given me a drop more hope in Shem Phillips games, because they're phenomenal games, but for me they haven't landed as much, whereas Wayfarers I love. And so I'm excited for Ezra and Nehemiah, both because of the theme. It's a religious theme from a company that does a lot of great games that does pull me in a lot more, because I like seeing that. We're just selfishly biased. I'm obviously, Orthodox and religious, and I do like seeing religious themes in games because they are so hard to come across a good game with a good religious theme. So like Gollum is like the only one I can think of. Usually they're like passable games at best, and usually not the great games. So I'm excited about Ezra and Nehemiah. I do plan on picking that one up at retail. And then we have Defenders of the Wild. This is coming from Henry Audubon, which already makes it a game I'm interested in. That's another one where I plan on picking up at retail as opposed to crowdfunding, but I'm definitely very excited for Defenders of the Wild. The gameplay looks fun, the cooperative elements of it, the trying to fight off these various having the forest invaded by and picking your clan and all that. The general gameplay, the combination of Henry Audubon, the art, the company behind it. I just think it's one that I'm very excited for. Not so much the crowdfunding campaign, because I think I get it cheaper at retail, but that is one that I'm definitely very excited for. Which brings me to my game highlights for the month. My game highlights, these are always games that are not in any of the other categories, and again, sorted in order of 5 down to 1, starting off with Tiwanuku over here. Did I cover this one already? No. That was best new games. Tiwanaku. Tiwanaku over here is my number 5. This is a deduction game that I'm still enjoying playing. I consistently have fun with this one. It is just a good deduction game. They only have a limited number of puzzles in the game, so you can't play it that much. But when you do go through it, it's basically Minesweeper and deduction, and it's just a fun, enjoyable puzzle. I think it's fantastic. I think the logical deduction rules are very clever. The scoring optimization around it is clever, because even if you figure everything out, there's still a way to play the game to optimize your score, and the combination of all that is just, well, really, really well done. My number 4 pick is going to be My City Roll and Build, which I mentioned already from games I've played a lot, because that makes sense. It's not new to me this month, because I've played it in previous months. My City Roll and Build is a fast-playing way of going through My City. I think I prefer My City. There's more control over there. My City Roll and Build is a little more random, but I still very much enjoyed it. My number 3 is going to be a controversial one, which is going to be DC's A Zombicide game. The only reason it's controversial is because this is technically a new to me game. Technically. But effectively, it's mostly the same system of Marvel Zombies, so I have a hard time looking at you with a straight face and saying, this is a favorite new game of the month to me. It's more Marvel Zombies. I like it. I think the difficulty, I've played it a bunch of times now. I've played it 4 times, 3 times. The game has the difficulty of Marvel Zombies. It is a hard game to go through. It has the system of Marvel Zombies. It has all the things that make Marvel Zombies fun. I think there are some small differences to it, but ultimately it is a system that is present in Marvel Zombies. If you like Marvel Zombies, you'll like DC's Zombicide game. And if you like the difficulty, if you want the characters, their IP, all of that, I really enjoy DC's. I think it's fantastic. I'm excited to pick it up. It is probably the game that's going to bump out Undead or Alive from my collection, because I do enjoy Undead or Alive, but I just can't have 5 Zombicide games. There's a limit. There's a cap even for me. My number 2 is going to be Codenames Duet, which again, played 19 games this past month. It should not be a surprise that right now it's very much front and center for me in my head. Codenames Duet is a fantastic experience, consistently holds up. I've enjoyed that game ever since I first played it, or Codenames in general, and I mean, it's a good game. And my number 1 is a great game. My number 1 is going to be For Northwood, which I am loving right now. I mean, I say it over Codenames, but it's only because I played Codenames so much. But For Northwood is so much fun. I've gotten a bunch of people to play this game this month. I've had to go out and buy a few copies to gift to people, because of the fact that it's just such a ridiculously good game. That is one of those games that goes a little bit under the radar. People who know about it get it, like it, enjoy it, but it's not one of those games you hear everyone talking about, and I think it's fantastic. It is a solo game. It is solo trick-taking, which means it will not be for everyone. But it is so clever. It is so well done. Like I think I originally gave it a 4.5, if I'm not mistaken. That's easily going to be a 5 when I next review it or show or come back to it. It's just a ridiculously good game that I want people to know about, because it is a good game. And that is where we are for the month in review. That is everything I have for you. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully something you found from this video in some way, like, recaps, best games, whatever it is that you get out of this experience. But in any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video.